Hey there, Taurus Ascendant. It's Louisa from For Good Astrology, and I've got another Ascendant forecast for you, taking you from Monday the 17th of November right the way through to Sunday the 23rd of November 2025. And this is a whole sign Western tropical forecast. I'm using that kind of model, and it's really for people who love astrology or understand their astrology a little bit already, because I'm using the charts. So if you're used to looking at charts, you'll find it really fascinating, hopefully. Now, this is a week where I think it's one of the most revealing ones of the year so far. It's really moving us forward. It's like you're ready for more. And I also think that with the moves into Sagittarius later this week, it feels like your future is beginning to speak to you, so you're not needing to go out and try and work out what it all means, but all of a sudden it feels like the meanings are coming to you, which is, I think, rather special. Now, we've got two planetary changes. Mercury's going retrograde into Scorpio. To me, when he does that, he's rewriting the story. Like, he started off in Sagittarius with his retrograde, which is less about information, but a lot more about the storytelling of your life so far. And as he goes back into Scorpio, it's like he's going into the archives of your mind to find out what's important. And, is there a more powerful way you can tell your story to yourself? Just my thoughts. We've also got the sun moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius soon after. And, then I think we're really coming out of this very magical, quiet, intuitive time and starting to kind of wake up and kind of shake up. I think it's going to be quite exciting. So we've also got the new moon in Scorpio and a Mercury Cazimi, and also a very rare sextile between Uranus and Neptune. So let's get cracking, shall we? Now, as ever, just want to say a quick shout out, a quick thank you to everybody that supports my channel, whether it's historically or currently or regularly, however it happens. I really appreciate you. You really make a difference to my life. So thanks so much. So this is the first chart, and this is actually based on Sunday the 16th. It's just to really set the scene. And the last chart is for Sunday the 23rd. So you'll see, if you follow there's the moon. The moon's going to go around to here. So the moon in the space of a week is going from here to here, around quarter of the chart. And you'll see that we've got this red disc here. That's not part of the chart, but it's really to highlight where there's a flurry of activity this week, because this is the point where we're going to have the new moon. And that's on Thursday, the 20th of November. You'll see here that you've got, at the start, you've got Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius and the sun in the sign of Scorpio. By the end of this week, they've both shifted. They've both swapped signs, literally gone the other way. It's a bit like that last week when we had Mercury and Mars cross each other in like different directions. So this week, Mercury's going back. He's going back in on the 19th. And you'll see that there's a lot going on. In fact, there's so much going on, I couldn't give everything a line. I had to double some things up. So on this, we've got these lovely trines, the sun making an exact trine to Jupiter, and also an exact trine to Saturn on the same day. This is a real power move. Jupiter is very much, I think, about a visionary power, whereas Saturn is about a sort of mechanistic power. And working with the sun like this in a grand trine, I think is really beautiful. The sun is also going to make a trine with Neptune later on this week, on the same day that the sun goes into opposition with Uranus. Again, these are very, very powerful movements. So, the 17th and the 21st, stand out as very strong days just because of that. Then on the 22nd, you've got Mercury making an exact trine with Saturn and Jupiter. Next week, we'll have Venus doing this as well. So the position of Saturn and Neptune and Jupiter are really telling. And the fact that they're all balanced with Uranus as well. We've got this huge kite, so this is like the tail end of the kite. And this is the front of the kite. Uranus and Neptune are unconscious planets. They are planets that are helping to seed our consciousness in, like, each generation. They're making a really long-term big impact effect. And on the 20th, the day of the new moon, and also when Mercury goes into a Cazimi, all at 28 degrees, like here, in the sign of Scorpio, at the same day, Uranus makes an exact sextile to Neptune. Now, this is a sort of generation forming aspect. The last time this happened, a sextile, we had one actually in August, but we have them in like series of 5. This is the second in the series of 5. But the previous series in the sign, in a sextile was back in the 1960s, in 1966 to 68. So, it's like 60 years ago, give or take, a year or two. So it's pretty intense. This is a very important aspect, bringing in this sense of vision and innovation. And so this is such a powerful time. Now, where this is landing in your chart is in your 7th house. And so everything to do with the 7th house, which is relationships. I also think the projections that you put on other people and that they put on you. The 7th house I see as being everything that you can't see in yourself that you're projecting onto the people around you, because the 1st house is all about you, everything that's contained in you is kind of in your 1st house, and therefore everything that's not you is in everyone else. And so this is a highly projected new moon. And it's all about the people in your life and your attitudes towards them and their attitudes towards you. Now, a new moon sows the seed of a whole new start. So, if you're single and you're wanting to get into a relationship, to me, this looks like quite a special time. If you're already in a relationship and you're wanting to go deeper into your relationships, given that, Scorpio is so deep, and, often holds a lot of pathology, in the ideas of, funny psychological things, that you can really dig deep in. Obviously, all signs have their own sort of unique psychological stances, but the Scorpio one is so deep, and it's about trust, going deeper into trust. So I really think there's going to be a breakthrough in terms of your relationships. Now, this particular new moon, so we'll have the sun, we'll have Mercury, Cazimi, and also the moon all at 28 degrees. They're all going to be exactly in an opposition to Uranus. And Venus is already in an opposition to Uranus. So Uranus is in your 1st house right now. He went back in just over a week ago. And Uranus is bringing this kind of a reawakening of yourself. Maybe you haven't gone completely into your weirdness yet, as much as the charts are really wanting you to. Uranus in your 1st house, and he's been there since 2018, and he came out on the 7th of July this year, and then he went back like a couple of Saturdays ago. I think actually last Saturday he went back into the sign of Taurus. He's gone back in to make sure that all the changes you need to make about your personality, your vision of who you are, you're not forgetting about them. You're not forgetting about the development and change that you've gone through over the last over the last 7 years. And so this is I think very freeing and liberating. There is a shedding of any distortion that you've got about your relationships, and in terms of how you get that relationship balance, any deep emotions or forgotten desires about your relationships, any hidden fears about relationships are going to be, not only are you rewriting that story, but you're kind of being shaken out of those stories and coming into an alignment that really matches you. Now, that's all going on leading up to the 20th. And, from the 22nd, the sun is going to go into Sagittarius. In fact, let me go back to the moon, actually, and then I'll talk about the sun coming into Sagittarius, because at the start of this forecast period, the moon's down here, but the moon comes into the sign of Scorpio, the 7th house, your 7th house, on the 17th. It's a really powerful day. A couple of days later, Mercury is coming in. So there's going to be the moon, Venus, Mercury, and the sun all in the sign of Scorpio, all in your 7th house, really giving you like a private moment to think about what it is you want in your relationships. You might find that your partners are particularly sensitive at this time, between the 17th and the 20th, because the moon in the 7th house always brings out the crazies in our loved ones. Venus there, your loved ones are wanting to be loved. They're wanting a bit of extra reassurance, and they're really wanting to sort of partner with you. There's that real sense of coupling. And so around the time of the new moon, there's a real sort of promise that anything that you're wanting to bring about in your relationships can start to occur. It's like you're sowing a seed for relationship bliss, or a change in your relationships that's going to be beneficial. Now, after that new moon, and when Uranus is in a sextile to Neptune, we've got the moon going into the sign of Sagittarius, and so you'll have Mars and the moon in Sagittarius in your 8th house. And this is going to bring up a feeling of hope and optimism, that any of the things that you've wanted to resolve about your relationships, all of a sudden you've got this movement, this feeling of a conversation, this feeling that things can open up, which I think is delightful. So it's almost like a sense of like rambunctiousness, where you're a bit cheeky. And it's your cheekiness that's actually helping to, break down anything that's a bit difficult. And then on Sunday, let me just double check. Yeah, on Saturday the 22nd, the sun is going to go into Sagittarius, and then soon after the moon's going to go into Capricorn. So you'll have the moon and Mars in Sagittarius, and then all of a sudden there's going to be a bit of a swap, and you have the sun and Mars in the sign of Sagittarius. So the sort of cheekiness, the emotions, and that Mars energy of wanting to sort out your relationships, suddenly it's going to get warmed up. The sun's going to illuminate what has held you back from having good relationships. It's going to illuminate things to do with sensuality and sex, your shared resources together, any resistances that stop you from really connecting person to person. And at this time, the moon is really happy in the 9th house, really wanting to explore and kind of feel a bit euphoric, actually. And so all in all, I really see that you're moving through, like into and through the ideas of relationships. Your stories about yourself and your stories about your relationships are turning around, and you're coming out of this week more in a sense of euphoria. And so, yeah, I do think you're going to get this sense of vision and faith and future direction, which is what the sun going into Sagittarius is going to represent. I do think you're going to be more unfiltered, a lot more raw, a lot more ready. I think you're remembering who you were before, life got a bit messy and things got a bit noisy. So this is going to bring you back to yourself. It's very exciting. So that's where I'm going to leave this. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you want to know more, if you'd like me to help you explore your chart, maybe get ready for 2026, then just check out the links below, because I'm starting to do some 2026 based work now. So yeah, have a fabulous week ahead. Enjoy the new moon. It's a very powerful one, and catch up with you all soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.